Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to take a look at this update that Donald Trump put out on Truth Social this afternoon. I was just thinking, we've got no news today. There's very little news, and Trump decided to put out a Truth Social just so I could do a video on it, I guess. That's very nice. Yeah, Donald Trump says Canada considers his offer to become 51st state. Let's see exactly what Trump said. I told Canada, which very much wants to be a part of the fabulous Golden Dome system. That's the missile defense system the United States wants. We already have NORAD, but we want something that is even more extensive and can defend us in the event that our intelligence and NORAD fails us to where we have to shoot down an attack onto the United States. And I think the Golden Dome makes complete sense. I've talked about it. They said there's an initial upfront investment of $25 billion. We know the military budget, at least when you look at the big, beautiful bill, maybe expanding by $150 billion. They want a $1 trillion defense budget. I'm not for that. I don't think that's a smart thing, but I am for this Golden Dome. I do think this is a very good idea. And to me, it's like common sense. You can see what Trump says. He says it will cost $61 billion if they remain separate but unequal nation, but it will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer. So obviously some trolling here. Carney met with Trump. He said it's not happening. They don't want to do it. They don't want to be Americans. A lot of this with Canadians is I understand it, but it's all posture. If there was a situation to where they felt threatened, they would allow us to annex them like a World War III scenario. We understand that, kind of like the Fallout scenario. But in terms of this, Trump saying he's insinuating that it would cost Canadians $61 billion to be a part of the Golden Dome. I don't know about that. That seems like a lot. Now, there is a lot of area that you would have to defend in terms of how big Canada is, but I feel like based off of the amount, how conjugated their population is, you wouldn't have to defend that much airspace within Canada. But he's saying it would cost them $61 billion. The original upfront investment by the United States would be $25 billion, but it is going to cost more than that for sure. I don't think it's going to cost $1 trillion like people are saying over the course of 2 decades, maybe around $150 billion, maybe more depending. We'll see. But obviously Canada cannot afford that. I don't know where he's getting $61 billion. That's what Canada has to pay. Because we have an upfront investment of $25 billion. Canada's entire defense budget is $30 billion. So we'll see if we work something out with Canada, but that's not something that they're going to be able to pay. If they have to pay I don't know, is it $61 billion over 10 years? But in terms of them considering the offer, it just doesn't seem very likely. I will say, you look at what Trump is trying to do with Greenland, I don't think, like, acquiring any territory in Canada seems extremely challenging. But you have the Alberta situation, which is something I do think Trump will comment on in the future, whether that's right before their referendum, whether that's when he decides, well, maybe Alberta might be a better play for the United States than all of Canada, which we've discussed many times. Acquiring Canada would not be good for the United States, at least for conservatives, because of how liberal they are. Because you would think they would be able to vote in our elections, and it'd be a big problem. Somebody asked Trump about that, and he was like, well, we'll see. They might vote. He was saying they might vote for Poilievre. This was before the election, but we know Poilievre is a lot more of a lukewarm. He'd be like a moderate in U.S., moderate right maybe in U.S. terms. They're just very liberal. They're a liberal country. They would vote for Kamala at like a 65-70% rate over Trump. So that's why I said it just doesn't make sense to acquire all of Canada. And then you talk about the exotic idea of just taking Alberta, maybe Saskatchewan, maybe Trump starts commenting on that. We'll see. And then also I was saying, well, you know what? If you look at Greenland, what's comparable to Greenland within Canada? It would be the territories. It would be Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. They're all very sparsely populated. They are extremely cold, and they are part of the Arctic. And so that's why I'd be like, well, if Trump really loves the Arctic, he wants Greenland, why not also say, you know what, you want to be part of this? This one is not something that they would do unless they're like obsessed with the Golden Dome, which is a very good idea. You want to be proactive in the case of something catastrophic happens to where it's World War III We want Americans to have more security, especially considering we've got a potentially $1 trillion, even if it's not a trillion, $850 billion defense budget. Shouldn't we have extensive missile defense systems that are the best in the world, that are better than the Iron Dome? The Golden Dome's going to cost a lot more than the Iron Dome because of how much airspace we have to cover, because the United States is a lot bigger of a country than Israel is. But it just makes total sense. And so that's why I like the Golden Dome. And I had wondered if Trump was going to try and use the Golden Dome as leverage, because Canada, with their defense budget and how small it is, how would they really pay for this in terms of the airspace coverage? It seems like it'd be a challenge for them. I mean, we would be willing to protect them just because they're a big part of North America. I don't think you would necessarily need to protect a ton of Canada, just where they're probably the southern areas where all the concentrated population is. But you know how Trump is. He's going to come out. He's going to say things. I'd be maybe, you know what? We'll give you full coverage for free for the Golden Dome. We want all the territories, though. So that would give us the Northwest Passage, or we want just direct access to the Northwest Passage and maybe a part of one of the territories. You do something like that. I don't know. It seems like Trump is just trolling by saying we want all of Canada. It's just, we don't want all of Canada. We really don't. We want maybe the territories, maybe Western Canada, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, Yukon. You connect to Alaska. But I would say the territories, give us the 3 territories and we'll take Greenland, and you can be part of the Golden Dome, and we'll cover all your defense budget. We'll cover your defense budget, $30 billion. Yeah, you give us those territories, we'll do that. But I'm just kind of joking a little bit. You've also got JD Vance. Everyone should own some Bitcoin if they want to be a part of the near future. So I've been looking into this, the Bitcoin stuff a little bit in terms of how much the government owns, the strategic reserve that we have, which Trump was non-committal about it. Technically, now we do have a strategic reserve. We didn't invest into Bitcoin, though. We got it through just confiscating assets, and we've had it. Really, we didn't pay anything for it. It's around 200K Bitcoin. The strategic reserve, they want a total of around 1 million because they want 5% of the supply. Total supply of Bitcoin is 21 million, but around 2 million has been burned. It's like 19.5 million now is the total supply. And believe it or not, if you acquire a million, they estimate around 2 other million of BTC is lost forever, whether it's in cold wallets that can't be accessed, or it's in places where people lose their passwords. So, I mean, you could be talking, imagine we did get 5% of the supply. The problem with the government is we just buy at the top. I mean, if we make an investment, but I mean, it is true that Trump is embracing this, Vance is embracing it, the administration is. It's just a shame that we couldn't buy the 5% back. I'm not blaming Trump in his first term, just because you can't really, if the government's going to make an investment into something, it has to be more stable than Bitcoin was. I mean, even in 2021, 2022, what did it go down to? 15K. Now it's sitting 110K. It's remarkable. Imagine you make an investment, the government makes an investment when it was at 15K. But I mean, listen, we'll see what happens. I wonder if they will decide to pull the trigger and make an investment. Setting up the reserve was the most obvious thing, but the assets that they have in it, they've got some Ethereum, I know, like 130 million worth of Ethereum, and the Bitcoin that they own, that's the big holding is the 200K Bitcoin. But if they want to get to 5%, they probably have to acquire around 800K more. So that would be a huge investment. That's like around an $85 billion investment, which seems pretty tough to swing at this point. But I do know that they've embraced cryptocurrency a lot more than the previous administration, so that's a good thing. And certainly when you've got adversaries embracing it, it's you don't want to be left behind. You want to lead from in front as the United States when it comes to crypto. And we know Bitcoin's been accepted kind of as digital gold. Right now, its market cap is around $2.3 trillion. Gold's market cap is over 22 trillion. So maybe it has a 10x in it. Maybe it'll pass gold in terms of market cap. But that's really the comparison you should look at in terms of the market cap. Bitcoin's market cap really can't be compared to any other asset, I don't think, outside of gold at this point. If you're looking for like a barometer it can reach. Now, whether or not it'll make it to 22 trillion, I don't know. But it is the digital variant of gold. That's where people are valuing it at this point. And you've got all the ETFs. You've got the government acceptance. So we'll have to see what happens in terms of BTC and maybe the government acquiring more. It's, again, we're kind of buying at the top here. But no, I don't think the top is 110. I think the top probably is hopefully 250 or 200, but just depends the cycle. We'll have to see. Either way, guys, make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.